G'day Reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Welcome to Gallery Aquatica TV. Behind me is one of the best 700 litre mixed reef tanks I've seen in years. We're going to take you through every aspect of this tank and show you exactly why it is so successful. This tank is 2 meters long. It's 70 centimeters wide and 60 centimeters high. It's really beautifully positioned as a room divider tank. It sections off the office from the rest of the house. It's a perfect location for a beautiful reef tank. So let's start by having a look at the fish and corals in this tank. This tank is doing really well. You can tell that there's a beautiful balance with the fish and corals. So let's have a look at what fish are in this tank. There's a really nice group of tangs. My favorite definitely the star of the tank is the lipstick tang. She's just up the top there, but there's a couple of other tangs. There's a blue tang and an olivaceous tang. Olivaceous tangs are one of my favorite. They change color as they hit adulthood, but they're really friendly fish, and one of the tangs that I like to put in big tanks like this. There's also some dither fish. So we've got the Dispar Anthias and a Schoolochromis. There's a cleaner wrasse, a Melanurus wrasse, a 6-line wrasse. It's a really beautiful mix of fish, and certainly there's not too many fish in this tank, hence the idea that there's a nice balance. So let's have a look at the corals in this tank because they are doing particularly well. When we talk about corals, we talk about 3 distinct groups: soft corals, LPS and SPS corals. Now this tank is a great example of each of those groups. With the soft corals that have no skeleton, we've got a sarcophyton, we've also got star mat and corallomorphs, there's fluffy morphs. There's quite a few soft corals in this tank, and they're beautifully used to create some size and shape and texture with different types of soft corals. But there's also a great mix of LPS, large polyp stonies, and the best example is this beautiful gonny here in the front. It's got great polyp extension. You can see it's really enjoying the flow, and I just love the fact that it's a big colony of gonny. We don't often see colonies of this size. There's also a really nice Giardini, a beautiful mottled hammer, and a heap of other LPS in this tank doing really well. There's some great SPS. My favorite is this red scrolly Monty. It looks absolutely perfect. You can see it's enjoying the position, and they really give a beautiful ledging effect that not many other corals really do. So let's have a look at the equipment on this tank and see exactly why it's running so well. We'll start with the lights. Built into the hood of this tank is a light mount that houses the 4 hydras. There's a mix of 26s and 32s, and it's a perfect way to mount these lights. It's actually called connected. It's a type of aluminium frame stuff that you can use to customize a light mount, and it's just been zip tied onto the hood of this tank. And the good thing about it is that you can very easily add more lights if you choose. You'd probably argue that 4 hydras of this size are probably a little bit minimalistic for the tank, although the tank is certainly thriving and doing great. But at any point, we could always add another light onto this tank and go for 5 of the hydras. Let's talk about the water flow in this tank. When I first walked in and saw this tank, my first assumption was that there was quite a lot of flow. I could see the gonny and the other corals moving around, and I was a little bit surprised to learn that there's actually only 2 wave makers on this tank. So it's a twin set of the Gaia 350s. We've got one over on this side, one on the other side. They're both vertical. So this is interesting because typically with Gaias, I use them horizontal at the surface to push water across the surface, giving good oxygenation. But in this case, they've been used very successfully vertically on either end of the tank. There is a strong flow created from the return pump, and the nozzle is up in the top left here, and it's pushing water across the surface. So the combination of the Gaias on the vertical with the return pump is definitely creating a really nice flow in this tank. It's definitely fair to say that the aquascape is quite open. We've really just got a 3-bommy aquascape, and I think that's part of the beauty of this tank, that it's nice and open, lots of space for the fish, but that does make it easier to achieve a really nice water flow dynamic. And as you can see, the corals are absolutely loving it. So one of the most special things about this system is the filtration. So let's open the cabinet and check out the sump. You may notice that this tank doesn't have an internal weir. It has, in fact, a beautifully hidden, beautiful external overflow. And from here, the water feeds down through the plumbing into what is a particularly beautiful sump. This is an acrylic Hamali sump, and it really is a thing of beauty. You can see we've got the Octo Regal 150S, probably the perfect skimmer for this. It's in the first section here. There's a few media cups. The water feeds into the sump through these 3 drainage pipes, and we've got media cups with floss. So it's a really effective pre-filter system. It's a little bit hard to see, but there's a refugium here. And so we've got Chetomorpha growing in this section as a form of nutrient export. There's a prime light which is on at night time, so it's running an anti-sink photo period. So it's on at the opposite times to the tank, and that's growing keto in this section here. On the other side, we have biological media and our return pump section. It certainly is a beautiful sump and is doing an excellent job filtering this system. There is also a chiller. Now the chiller is outside. It's raining at the moment, so we're not going to go out there, but it's well hidden in a little like a little box sort of thing, as well as a UV sterilizer. As someone who works on tanks professionally, it's so good to see a tank where you can access from the back. Of course, most of our tanks are up against walls, so you don't have this luxury of being able to put things like controllers and dosing pumps on the back of your cabinet. It's really good, and I have to say this tank is probably the cleanest tank I've ever seen. Everything, the cabinet, the tank itself, the sump, it's just beautifully clean. It's such a beautiful system. But let's go back around the front for one more look. As I said in the introduction, this is definitely one of the best mixed reef tanks I've ever seen. And when you look at the combination of the choice of fish, the choice of corals, the aquascape, as well as the equipment used, the lighting, the filtration, it's no surprise why this tank is so successful. It's definitely the sort of tank that you want to have in your home or office. So that's it for today's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing. That's it for this week's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Don't forget to like and comment on all our videos and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned to Gallery Aquatica TV for more exciting episodes to come. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing!